Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the Anxiety Chicks podcast. I'm Alison Sepanera,
And I'm Taylor.
and we are so excited to be back together with Taylor. And we are excited for this episode because we haven't done one in a while, and we just are getting some requests and getting some people to ask us to kind of update them on what's been going on with us. And so we're coming today with some real life ish that has been going on for
Yeah.
myself, for Taylor, and just kind of having a conversation for anyone that feels like they can relate to this. So, welcome back, Taylor. How are you?
I'm okay.
Okay.
Not I wouldn't say it's easy to just be like, I'm good. It's like, are you good? No. Okay. I'm good. But Allison and I were actually just talking off air a little bit, and I just want to start this episode off with a little reminder for everybody.
Yeah.
And Allison has her some opinions on it for everybody, but as a someone who does not have a background in therapy, psychology, any of that, it's crazy to me. I feel like because I know a little bit, it's crazy to me how you can literally just go to your annual physical and say, or even worse, you do a little questionnaire thing with a dry erase marker and you answer a few questions and they tally up a number and they say, oh, you're struggling a little bit with this, or this. Here, let me write you a mental health prescription.
Which
And
means what?
like Zoloft,
Like
Ambien. Oh,
medication,
yeah,
right?
medication.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So we were talking a little bit before we started recording, kind of catching up, and then we were like, hold on, let's like talk about this on the pod because you know, in my life and your life, there's a lot of things going on in everybody's life, right? So we all know, I'm sorry, but we all know someone that takes some medication for their mental health, which is totally fine. I'm a holistic practitioner. So I sort of am usually like, okay, last resort medication, but that's not always how it works either, right? That's not how the brain or the body works for all different people. But um when you were telling me a little bit about like your questioning about medication, right? From a person who doesn't really know, you're not in the realm of psychology, right? Like I'm a therapist. I work with psychiatrists every day. I've been doing this for 20 years. For me, it's just, I know so much now because also of advocating for myself and learning about the mental health system that medication is not necessarily managed in the best way in our country. And so,
Why
you
is
know,
that? Like, why? First of all, my question to Allison was how is there a psychiatrist, but then a primary care doctor can do the exact same job of the psychiatrist? Like, I'm trying to figure that out.
yeah. Well, so if you think about it, you know, um, okay, there's all different type of specialties when it comes to medical doctors, right? You kind of figure out what type of residency you want to do, and you become a specialist usually, right? Um, and even GPs sort of have different specialties, but a psychiatrist is basically a specialist in the field of medical, being a doctor, I guess, the medical field.
Hmm.
Psychiatry is just a specialty. So, um, if you go, like, technically, you could go to your OBGYN and they can prescribe you with Zoloft. I
I've
mean, they
heard
can
that
prescribe
too.
you with Prozac. I mean, you can go to a dermatologist and they can give you Prozac. I mean, they're all they can prescribe. Anyone can, they're prescribing medical doctors, right?
Yeah.
So I think what Taylor was asking me before, as she was sort of updating me on a couple things, and I was updating her on a couple things, we started talking about medication and how it's just been the system is broken. Okay, so the reason why a lot of people don't go to a psychiatrist, which I recommend, because you're going to sit down with a psychiatrist who has a specialty and taken specific classes for years based on the brain and how it relates to certain psychotropic drugs, right? And
And I would
certain
assume a they've seen so many patients with the same kind of things that they can kind of. I even heard of some type of gene testing where they can say, oh,
Yeah.
this psychiatric medication is more beneficial, whatever. And I heard that a lot of these psychiatrists are doing that.
Yeah, genetic testing is huge.
Yeah.
And genetic testing now actually can be covered. I just got a prescription for it. Um, I'm not sure
Wow.
exactly what the copay is or what it is, but it depends on your insurance, I think. So, yeah, a lot of this genetic testing now can kind of show the chemicals in your brain. And because everybody's brain is different, so everybody responds differently to medication. And this genetic testing can actually give you a better sense of what medications would be best for you. So, anyone who's thinking about taking meds or on them, I would definitely ask your GP for genetic testing for sure. But kind of going back to why it's really more helpful to go to a psychiatrist if you're thinking of going on some type of medication for your mental health is because they specialize. They are taught in medical school all of these types of medicines and how they interact with the brain and the chemicals in your brain. Now, other doctors are taught that maybe one or two classes. I'm just literally I don't know the exact of med school. All I know is what my psychiatrist friends have told me, right? And my doctor, doctors that I consult with tell me is that, in school, that's not their specialty. So maybe they're taking a few classes on learning about those types of drugs, but a psychiatrist is specializing in it, right? So they're going
I
to school
guess
for
I
that.
I guess I see it as if you went to your primary care doctor, right? And you got an EKG done there. So like a diagnosis, an EKG, and they said, "Hey, your EKG is weird." What do? They refer you to a cardiologist. So my thing is like if I go to my GP and I say, "Hey, I have anxiety. Hey, I have depression," shouldn't they refer you to a psychiatrist?
Sure.
It's like that's what isn't
Sure.
computing in my head that it's like
100%. Yes. Yes. Also, like that should actually be the first place that anybody goes to when it comes to medication for their mental health is a psychiatrist, not a
yeah.
general practitioner. But in our country, we don't have education about that. We don't grow up knowing that the different types, also we don't grow up knowing the different types of doctors, like cardiologist, like not everyone knows what that means. um
Mhm.
right, like all these types of doctors, they're big words. Gastroenterologist, not everyone knows what that is. I mean, not everyone knows what it is. You have to literally teach yourself about these things. And so it's
Yeah.
just another specialty. And so a psychiatrist, this is what I tell my clients, coaching, private practice, friends, whoever, a psychiatrist is going to be an investment because in our United States, and I'd love to hear from other people in other countries if they're listening or watching, because I'm so curious what the mental health care is like in other countries when it comes to medication and getting like healthcare in that way. Because in the US, there's many psychiatrists that are private pay, just like psychologists that are private pay. Um, there's a lot that aren't. There's some that are insurance panels, but it is very hard. It is very long wait to get into those places. Insurance companies, they do not really see the value in the mental health system. And so that's why so many of my colleagues and myself are not on insurance panels. One, because they've denied me a couple times because insurance
Yeah.
panels are about money. So if they don't see that I can bring them money, then they're not going to want me on their panels, even though I want to go on their panels because I want to serve more people who can afford me. Not everyone can
Mhm.
afford me right now. But two insurance company denied me when I first started my practice, and I was like, F you. Okay, bye. I'll start my own business. But now I can't really reach the people that I really want to. So it's, and so that's the same with
It's
psychiatry.
like, "Oh, if you have money, you can go do that option," but it's like, how is that fair? Like I feel like
It's
so
not.
many it's not, and I feel like people's option is like, okay, then I'm going to get this all in one with my free physical, my free yearly physical that's included with my insurance. You know what I mean?
Well,
Anyway, so that is where I saw something happen with someone I know, and I I told Allison I just wanted to make that a little caution at the beginning of this episode. It's just like
well,
before you oh, sorry.
no, I just want to finish and say that like a psychiatrist is an investment. So there's a lot of people that go to their medical doctors. It's like 80-90% of people to get Lexapro, Prozac, what are all the generic that people know, the general ones that know, SSRIs, right, that they know,
Mhm.
Zoloft, um, from their GPs, because it is very expensive to go to a psychiatrist. And sometimes the wait, if it's through insurance, is so long that you have to wait like a year, I don't know, 6 months to a year. And so you want to look for a private person, but for your first appointment with a psychiatrist might be $1,000 just for the first
Wow.
appointment, which is which is an hour, maybe an hour and a half they'll spend with you, hour and a half, which is fine. And then the follow-up appointments might be 15 minutes and they might be $300. But
Wow.
that is a lot of money.
That
And
is.
and listen, who knows why the system is the way it is, but if you can invest and save money and somehow see a psychiatrist, if you really really need a comprehensive evaluation about chemicals in your brain and medication, because as a holistic practitioner, of course I'm like, oh, I want to try in different holistic ways, but I am a huge advocate for medication if it's prescribed
Mhm.
and managed the right way. And honestly, in my experience, the only way it was prescribed and managed the right way is when someone sees a psychiatrist, because a GP isn't managing it. They're giving you the Lexapro and they're saying, try this. And then you follow up with them to see if it works or not. They're not invested in the mental health piece and the medication connection. The psychiatrist is.
Yeah.
So it is. And also, if you're on any type of medication for your mental health, you need to be going to therapy.
Yeah.
You need to be going to therapy at the same time. There's no magic pill. Medication's amazing for so many different things, but that is not going to get to the root of anything. That's not going to change every single thing in your life. It's one tool in your toolkit. So don't just think that that's going to be the end all be all.
Yeah. I wonder, a question just came to my head as you were talking. Do you think there's more access to psychiatrists now with telemedicine? I wonder
I mean,
how, if
I
they've
hope
come a long
so.
way with insurance or something. That
I,
I
I,
think I just wish there was
who
access to
knows?
that for everybody, because it's crazy to me. It's absolutely crazy to me that people, especially men, I see this a lot with men, they go to their doctor, they do the little questionnaire thing, they barely talk about it, and they get a prescription. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's not even
You
someone
can go
digging
in and
into their mental
ask.
health.
You
Yeah.
can go into your GP and say, my friend is on, this is literally, I'm not even kidding. I've actually never said this out loud. I'm going to say it now. What was it, 6 years ago, 7 years ago? I've talked about this like depressive episode I've had in the
Mhm.
past. I went to my practitioner, my GP, and I was like, my two friends told me that they're on Lexapro. My one friend says she really loves it and it helps, and I want to try it. She goes, okay. She sent
Wow.
me home with Lexapro that day. She didn't tell me how to try it. She didn't tell me like the milligrams that I had. She didn't literally, and I'm a therapist. She told me nothing. And I hated it. It was the worst medication for me. It actually
Yeah.
does help so many people. It's amazing. Okay. So then it was really, I was not doing well on it. I call her back a couple weeks after, maybe like 10 days later or something, or maybe like 8 days later, because sometimes it takes a while for the medication to cut into your system. And I'm like,
Mhm.
I'm telling her that I don't think this is helping. Something's wrong, blah, blah, blah. Oh, just stay with it. Just keep going. Don't worry. I didn't listen to her. After 2 days, I stopped and I actually started feeling better again. So, like, you literally
I
can go to your GP and say, I heard that this one's good. Can I try it? And a lot of them will be like, sure, here, try it. It is no.
That's really terrifying to me as somebody outside of the medical field. That is very, like, outside of psychiatry and all of that, that is terrifying that you
Mm-hmm.
can just ask for a medication, especially with
Yes.
TikTok and social media and people
Mm-hmm.
just hearing other people's stories. I mean, especially your story, like, I've heard of so many people who one thing works for someone and the other doesn't work for that person. And so the scariest thing to me is seeing someone getting prescribed it and then the dose getting bumped up so high when they're not feeling right. So regarding what you said, that story about how you called and said, hey, this doesn't feel normal, and they said stick with it, I've even seen where they said, hey, this doesn't feel normal, and they bumped up the dosage. So that kind of
Oh
freaks me
yeah.
out a little bit. So I just think, if you take anything from what Allison and I have said today, it's, please find a way to make the investment if you can. I mean, especially if it's really bad. Just
100%. And here's another thing. You have to what do Taylor and I talk about almost every single episode? You have to advocate for yourself these days when it comes to
yeah.
your medical health, mental health, physical health, whatever. You have to advocate for yourself. So like literally You can make an appointment with 5 psychiatrists if you want. If you have a little, savings account with $10,000 just for psychiatry, go and see 3 different psychiatrists and see what they say. And they might give you each a different prescription. You don't need to go take those things. Like,
Mm-hmm.
you need to get answers for yourself. You need to go, you need to do research about psychiatrists and therapists that people have gone to, that that you are going to be able to trust because you've read and you've heard word of mouth. And if you make an appointment and you go see the psychiatrist, you do not need to take their prescription to CVS like that second. You don't need to even do anything with it. You can research it a
Mm-hmm.
little bit. Right? Now that could be a slippery slope. You don't want to learn too much about side effects. That'll like make your head spiral. But research. And you, just because you go see a psychiatrist or someone says, "Here, you should try this," does not mean you have to do it.
Yeah. I also think
So,
researching is important. What you just said,
yeah.
and I think making others aware that you're starting something too. At least someone let someone know so they can watch for things. And yeah, I think
Yes,
that's very
I
important.
I love that. And yeah, I think that, we just wanted to coming in hot today. I'm coming in hot today because
Well, it's just
because
crazy to me. Like it's crazy. It's 2025. We spend so much money on all this stuff, and I feel like it's super normal when you have uh, a specific ailment that you go to a specific doctor, and it makes no sense that the brain is any different. Makes no sense to me at all.
no, 100%. I mean, this is literally the mission of my entire career, is trying to raise awareness about all of this stuff, because there's only so much that we can have control over when it comes to like the FDA and like changing the system. I mean, come on. But what you can do is listen to this podcast and speak up and use your voice when you're at the doctor, and don't let them make you feel like you're, 2 inches tall, because they're a lot of them have God complexes, and they're going to try and
Yeah.
tell you what they're saying is the correct thing and that they're right, and they're not always. Okay?
Yeah. Okay. That
So,
was our rant on that. But continuing
yes.
with health, a few updates. So for
Yeah.
me personally, I'm sure a lot of people can relate to this. I'm a perfectionist. I feel like I'm very on top of things, but I also feel that's a blessing and a curse, because I feel like sometimes I get blood work done or things done and I see that there's an issue. I want to do something about it. I get very proactive about it, and then I end up doing nothing about it and it's a year later. Can you relate to that? Like knowing there's changes and things you need to make. Anyways, I turned 30.
Yes.
After my 30th birthday, I was like, I am sick and tired of having these few things in my brain just always there. Like always knowing you got these few test results back that are like, no one's given you an answer. Nobody's, and you keep putting the same crap in your body. You keep doing, like, I feel like for the most part, I'm a very healthy person, but then I just like allow myself with some of these things, and over time, you do it a little more and you're just like, okay, I want to stop it. And I'm doing it because I'll fill my plate so much with go, 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 that I, I literally took a step back. This was literally, I turned 30 on February 23rd. And like the next day, I was like, dude, you live 100 miles per hour. You are
Mm.
filling every second of your day so focused on the future, but how can you expect to have a future when you're not doing stuff for yourself every single day and slowing down and really enjoying the people around you? And I remember I was having these thoughts, and then I was on social media the next day, and there was actually this girl, sweet girl I follow, and there was this post, and I was like, oh my gosh, what happened? And out of nowhere, suddenly her dad died, like no warning, nothing.
Mm.
And she really wrote in description, she like wrote out all her feelings, the whole story, and I felt like I could like feel her pain through the post, and it really spoke to me. Like that one post spoke to me, and it literally said slow down. And so that's kind of what I thought about with turning 30. It's like, slow down. You have so much knowledge of things. And I feel like that's sometimes my downfall, is I'll have all this knowledge about what I need to do, but it's like, okay, you're not a superhuman. You can't always act like you're 15 and just run your body to the ground and expect good things from it. Like you have to really slow down when you're around your family, when you're around friends. Slow down, get off your phone, put your phone away, really soak in time with your mom and dad. Like, you don't know what tomorrow has. And I feel like a lot of times my biggest struggle is when I'm with family or friends not actually being there, being two steps ahead, when I'm rushing to make meals because I need to get all this work done, all these things in my brain. I'm like, you're not even eating the things you know you should be eating because you're in such a rush. A rush for what? I remember saying that to myself. Like, you wake up and the next thing you know, you're going to bed. And I pride myself on like how hard I work, but I don't know. I just really had this big awakening that, like, okay, hey, you got those autoimmune antibodies that you never really dove in on. You have all the knowledge, but you never dove in on because you just keep it in this to-do list in the back of your head. Do you have a few things that you do that? Like, you know what you need to do about it, and
Like when it
you
comes to my health?
just in life, like, you just
Oh,
know, like, it's always on your brain, like a few things in the back of your brain that you're like, oh, I need to do that. I know I need to do that. Oh, I'll do that now. I'll do that next month, next month, next month. And then next month comes anyways, and I'm like, okay, and now you're 30, and like, okay, when are you gonna have kids? I had all these thoughts come to my brain that I'm like, you're always pushing
yeah.
yourself, you know, like, I'm always that I never just slow down and like really think of today. And I just realized how fast paced I
Was
live.
that
And
was that like one of the was the thing about having kids when you turn 30? Was it like you turned 30 and then that number sort of scared you, being like,
a little
okay,
bit.
wait. Yeah.
Yeah. It's like, how am I all of a sudden 30? I feel like one day I was like 26 and then all of a sudden I'm 30.
Yeah.
And I really looked
Yeah.
back on, and I would even say it's since I started such an entrepreneur like job, and maybe you feel this
Hmm.
way, months fly by, days
Oh
fly by
my gosh, 100%.
way faster than they used to,
Oh my gosh,
way
yes.
faster.
Yep.
And so it's just like weird how one day you wake up and you're like, hang on,
Hmm.
like, what am I doing? And I think I just had one of those realizations. I wouldn't say it was like a midlife crisis, but it felt like,
You're not
okay,
even
what
there
do,
yet. You'll have that in 10 years when you reach
yeah,
40, like I did.
yeah. But you're just like, what do I want? I don't know. I just had like all these thoughts, and like, even down to like, I was falling asleep at night and like neglecting taking my supplements at night that I used to take. And then it's like a month later and I haven't taken it in a month. And I'm like, oh my
Hmm.
gosh, like, why are we doing this when we have the knowledge and we know what to do and we want to invest in our health?
Yeah.
And that's a big thing I care about. Why am I neglecting it? Why am I living so fast paced? So that's just been I've been really just,
So
I don't know.
what have you, I guess with this kind of insight you have about yourself now, since you've turned 30, it's been what, less than a month? A
Yeah.
month?
Yeah.
Less than a month. Um, what is it? What do you want to change? Is there something you're changing about your life, or like what's different?
Yeah. So I mean, I was staying up so late on my phone. I got in a really bad habit of that. So now I'm waking up a lot earlier. I'm going to bed earlier. I'm putting my phone in airplane mode, putting it on my nightstand, not touching it. Uh in the morning, I literally do not skip my morning routine. I used to be very like, oh, it's fine. Like, I need to get straight to my laptop or something, something, something. There's always an excuse, right, to not do it. So doing that and being strict about it and just being like, no, this is good for me. I
Mm.
feel good when I walk into my bedroom. And you know what's funny is like I've had this phase before where I've felt like I've been good about it. And I'm like, you felt so good when you did that. Why did you stop? You stopped because you started living in this like comparison, fast paced life of getting more, being more, doing more. And
Yeah.
so it's funny when you look back on those times where you were doing those things and you felt so good, but you stopped because you want this lifestyle that might not even. I think about just like people who died and who die, and
Hmm.
maybe they die with money or a house or stuff. And it's like, what all is that now? So it's just a
Totally.
priority shift, I guess. Just really,
Yeah.
really enjoying today rather than focusing on what my life will look like in 10 years, and just being more
Hmm.
satisfied. I think this year I'm literally more satisfied with, it's okay if I don't make X amount of money that I set a
Hmm.
goal of. It's
Yeah.
okay as long as like I'm taking care of me, I'm working on me, I'm being a nice person. Because when I get really stressed out about work or something, I can lash out on my husband, I can lash out on my family members.
Hmm.
And so it's really just I never want to look back on life and be like, I just was like this horrible person to be around because I was so caught up in myself and my goals.
Well, I think, you're learning a lot about yourself. That's what it sounds like.
Yeah. Yes.
And honestly, that type of process of learning about yourself can only honestly come with age and life
Yeah.
experience. Like as you age, you have more and more life experience with different adversities, and your life changes in lots of different ways. You start feeling different emotions that you may never have felt before. Your
Hmm.
relationships change. People in your life, they start getting older. You start seeing people losing people. I mean, life life gets, I mean, it's not, I'm not saying this generally, but as you age, there's things that happen that
Hmm.
you might not have, thought about when you were 16. You know what I mean? Like, and you reach this first kind of milestone in your life at 30, and it takes, I think you're at a good place with with having an insight about yourself, so you can like work on this part of you
I think
to
so
move
too. And
through.
I
Yeah.
think a big thing I said to myself is like giving myself grace too, because it's
Hmm.
almost like embarrassing when you know what you know and you've done the things before that have been beneficial for you, and how you felt, how you treated others, and you were okay with that. But it's like being content continually,
Hmm.
continually being content
Hmm.
with like just what you have, just what you are, and not
Yeah.
looking at all these outside things, like almost just having a blinders on of what's truly important. And I know I go through these phases and I'm really just trying to stick in this content mindset.
Yeah. Well, just to put it in context for everybody, my 30th birthday, which I've talked about on here and other podcasts, is when I had like my literally worst horrible panic attack ever as an adult. I definitely had them when I was younger, but I didn't know it then. And so my 30th birthday was literally like the worst day of my life, but also the best because it
Hmm.
literally changed my life to be like where I am now. And so if I had half of like the insight about myself that you have at 30, I mean, I'd be, I definitely don't think I would have had that worse of a panic attack. And I probably would have had different people in my life at that point. And everyone's journey is so different, but you know you are really, you're just really insightful about yourself, and I think that you said giving yourself grace is huge. We all need to give ourselves more grace at any age. I mean,
Yeah.
the voices in our head that just are so critical, and just the how easy it is to compare ourselves to other people, and how those voices just get louder and louder in different moments. You have to be careful of those. You have to listen to those, and you have to say, okay, is this true? Like, this voice
Hmm.
is telling me something about myself and about my worldview. Like, is this really true, or am I just feeling, if I'm being hard on myself, or am I feeling really anxious about something? If I feel like I'm missing something, or what ifs, like what if I don't do this, what if I don't reach this goal, what if this doesn't happen with this person I'm in a relationship with, like, and all of that
Hmm.
is, that's not going to, it's not helpful. It's just not going to
No.
help you. It's just not helpful. And we all have our own journey. And in the grand scheme of things, this is kind of what I learned yesterday, because I've been having sort of similar to you as far as like my career goes and my personal life with like dating, which I'll do an update there in a minute. But I my brain can go to this place of like spiraling so quickly of what I don't have, and
Hmm.
comparing myself to everybody else in my life, and how amazing it is that they have this. And what's hard for me to access in those moments sometimes is how far I've come, and how fortunate and grateful I am to actually have the type of career I have, to be able to help people. I have a wonderful place that I live, and it's like home. It feels like home, but like there are these other things I would imagine would make me feel, oh, like be able to breathe a little bit better or something. But what? For what? For
Yeah.
what? I'm loved. I have people in my life that love me. I have people in my life that it's hard. It's hard. Relationships are hard. That's okay. I have an awareness about myself that doesn't give me debilitating panic attacks anymore. I am worked so hard on that. Um, I have friends that are great. I live in a safe home that I feel safe in. Like, what more? What more? You just want to be able to feel safe, right? And so I think
Yeah.
if you can kind of keep that perspective a little bit, that doesn't mean also that you can't feel angry and sad and scared sometimes. Like, that's natural. But you have to like prioritize yourself and make sure that you're talking about those things and that
Mhm.
you're processing those things, especially with a professional person, because you can do as much self help work. And of course, people can, but I don't know. The really, really
There's
deep
always
rooted.
something, yeah, there's always something deeper that's like
Yes.
if you don't face that, I don't know if it ever, and I think that's what will cause you to keep going back into those mindsets is if you don't ever actually dive deep into those feelings of like my reaching of goals is connected to my self-worth. I
Mm-hmm.
like disconnecting those. I don't that's tough to do on your own. I think having an outside perspective, looking in on, and I think that's the biggest thing is like I want to be fully content in just who I am, what I have, and the people around me, and not what I can bring to this world, what I can bring to people, what like that's all extras. It's truly just like I want to be content as Taylor, not what I
Yeah.
have to offer. And I think that's just the biggest thing. Because I don't want to waste life. Like I really just when I turned
Mm-hmm.
30, I was like, I want to stop wasting my life because I waste so much of my life doing comparison games.
Totally. That's very wise. And you started this like part of this conversation with no, everyone struggles with perfectionism at some point, or everyone's a perfectionist. You kind of like started with that statement. And so I can imagine that that is connected to everything. When you think about self-worth and people that think about different parts of their life and they have this voice that's trying to tell them that what they're doing is never enough because they need to have these things be perfect, that's actually a deep rooted problem. Part of the
Mm-hmm.
deep rooted problem doesn't mean that you're unlovable or that you're not worthy or like, you're a failure or anything. But in our core root of us, like our core beliefs, those deep rooted core beliefs are very hard to change. And if we don't do something in a quote unquote perfect way, then those voices get louder. You are worthless. What are you doing? And that is really where you need to kind of like work on that shift with somebody else. Like
Yeah.
that. And that should be for most people. I mean, I'm a literally classic CBT person. I know how to do it and like with my eyes closed and asleep. And I still find that I therapy will always be a part of my healing toolkit. Being able to
Yeah.
go to my therapist and process through some of the thoughts I'm having is always going to be something so helpful for me, not even when I'm in crisis or anything. I just go and I
Exactly.
process through the thoughts that I'm having, even though I know how to reframe them. I know how to really regulate my nervous system. I have a really great toolkit, but I still feel scared and sad about life sometimes. And having somebody in a safe space in an office to like let me cry to them and like really understands me, it's like priceless. So, like,
Well, that's funny you say that too. I started talk therapy again, and I'm like, you don't, sometimes you just need to have an outside perspective. Like you just said something very important. I feel like for the longest time, I was like, we did good with health anxiety. We really made it. We made it to the other side. And it's like, okay, wait, there's deeper things. There's always something. There's always something deeper, especially if you're someone like me who like I'm helping everybody around me always. And I never want to show my cards. I will mask until the day I die. Like I will mask. I could look pale in the face about to pass out and I'm not going to tell someone I'm about to pass out. I'll go to the bathroom and I'll handle myself there. So it's like I have to let that out in some way. And so I think that's where I think talk therapy is so helpful. And so making time for that, that's something else I started doing. Being like, it's okay, even if I'm not in crisis. I think for the longest time, I was like, I don't need that. I'm not in crisis. I feel very in control of my mental health. I've made it so far. And I have, but it's still something you don't realize is so helpful. And so I'm having those realizations turning 30. I just sat back and I was like, I want to feel my best. I want to feel content. I want to feel these things. And I feel like sometimes the only way to get there is to talk through it and really find out what is it, what is deeper, where are your priorities. And so that's been really helpful to me. Oh, your mic's off.
Sorry. Hi, I'm back. For anyone who is kind of relates to Taylor, as far as it sounds like you're just so used to internalizing things a little bit, and then, okay, I'm going to internalize this and then I'll just handle it, right? Um, that is going to catch up with you at some point or
Mm-hmm.
another, and internalizing things will manifest in other ways.
Mm-hmm.
So if you
I think
find
that's
yourself,
where I find myself irritable.
right, I was just going to say, irritability, also somatically, like if you're having physical symptoms more often, where you've gotten every test under the sun and you're quote unquote fine, but you're still having certain somatic symptoms, you're probably internalizing things. You're
Yeah.
probably keeping things in. Um, you're not able to, like you said, everybody deserves and needs help from other people at one point or another, whether it's emotional help or physical help, whatever. And if you're someone who is like, oh, I don't need any, or I need to, you're internalizing things. And that is literally going to come out in other ways that are going to be not healthy for you. So if you're listening to this and you haven't been to therapy, or like you're thinking about it, think of the therapist space as just a practice for you to learn how to express yourself and learn how to talk about feelings.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you're internalizing something, if you're a person who totally does that, you're most likely someone who is uncomfortable with talking about emotions.
I
So,
agree.
and that is not healthy. That's not going to help you. It's not going to help you in life. It's actually going to hurt you, and it's really going to make your relationship suffer. It's going to make your sleep suffer. It's going to make your health suffer. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
everything. So, you need to learn how to be in a space with another person and be vulnerable.
Yeah.
That is what's going to kind of set you free. So that's what I love, because I've always been someone who it was very hard to talk about emotions. I was too much. I was a sensitive person. Be quiet. What's wrong? Oh my gosh, you again, you're crying. All this stuff that I always learned about myself. And actually, my voice deserves to be heard. And therapy gives me a space to go. It used to be so uncomfortable for me to talk about myself. I'd be asking the therapist questions. I'd be like, so how are you? What's going on
I've done
today?
that.
Like, I'd be like starting to talk to the therapist about her. She's like, well,
Oh,
we're here to talk about you. Like, tell me about, well, actually, I had some really terrible therapists, who literally I turned into their therapist. But, um, you know, no, it should be a space for you to learn how to express yourself and allow that space for that, because you are allowed to do that and you should do that.
I think that brings me back to what you said about the investment thing. I think my thing was you've made it so far with health anxiety. You don't have panic attacks anymore. You're doing great. Oh, we don't need to spend the money on that right now. And oh, we don't have the time for that right now. Like you're really busy. And like I said, turning 30, I was like, hold up, hold up. No, you're going to make time for this. You're going to make time in your day to talk to someone. You're going to make an investment. You spend all this money on all this other stuff. So it's little things like that. Those are the changes that I'm like, wow, I feel so good when I do these things, and reminding myself. And that's where journaling is so helpful, because I can now say in a month or two, I start falling off the wagon because I do that. I let life get too busy. I'm guilty of that. I'm willing to admit it. I get off the railroad tracks. But I have that journal now that I've made a priority to look back on and say, look how good you felt when you set these goals and you actually did these goals, meaning these things in life that might not get me X amount of money, X amount of followers, but these are just life goals that are going to make me happy, because happiness is built from within, not from what you buy, what you get, what you receive. And I
Well,
think,
no, let's not. Sorry, keep going.
oh, and so that's just really what I'm working on. Just really like being, I guess my word of 30 is content and focused on within.
So I was just going to say that was great, because I want you to be careful with the word happy, because happy is an
Yeah.
emotion that's very fluid. So no one's goal should be, well, I just want to be happy. I just want to be happy. what can I do to just be happy all the time? Like that is not reality. You're not going to be happy all the time. But can you be content and can you
Yeah.
feel fulfilled in your life? Yeah. You can be content in your life and still feel sad and scared. You can be content and fulfilled in your life and still feel like frustrated and annoyed and angry,
Yeah.
right?
I feel like going 100 miles per hour, I was never happy. Like I truly was never happy. I was never content. Things could have been going really good. Like financially, I was getting these things that none of it did anything. Do you know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like even I saw this girl on TikTok and it was like when you have so much internal anxiety or high functioning anxiety and you get your favorite college acceptance and the girl literally was on her phone and she looks up at her family and she was like, I got in, and like smiled but then like looked back down at her phone, and it was like when you've been in such an anxious state that you're so scared of failure that you almost only feel relief and not even joy. All she felt was relief of I didn't fail instead of joy and excitement of wow, this is
Yeah.
such a cool opportunity, I'm so excited for this.
Mm.
That's sad and that's scary, and I feel like I got that to that
Yes.
point in some areas of my life. So
Well,
just
because what's so
reflecting.
scary, but like what that's the deep rooted core belief, right? Like if this doesn't happen, then I'm a failure. And so
Mhm.
what is that fear? And that's what I would say for anyone that is able to identify like I'm so scared of failure. Like what is the fear behind that?
Yeah,
Right? What does it
self-worth.
mean? What does it mean to fail, quote unquote, right? And yeah, and what are you attaching your worth to?
Mhm.
So, I mean, one last thing I do want to say is like you have to remember that when it comes to career and like money, obviously everyone in the world is like, "Oh my gosh, what am I going to do with my life?" Like you have to survive, of course. You need money. And then in our capitalist society, money is what everyone sees that they think is going to make them happy, and it's not.
Mhm.
Money might make some things easier for people, but there are plenty of families and people and a lot of people I know who are they're surviving, of course. Like they're thank good. I mean, don't even talk to me about the rest of the world who doesn't have anything. I mean, why are we there's so much poverty in our world, but
Yeah.
money, you can feel so content and fulfilled and joyful, and maybe you're okay. You're not making like whatever you think you need to make. And
Yeah.
so find whatever that is in your life is my point.
I think I spent my 20s, and I think a lot of people in their 20s, maybe if you're listening to this and you're in your 20s, you feel like I feel like in social media we're in this boss girl grind, be the best, grow. And I was in that. I was in like, oh my gosh, this is my 20s are my years to like really get at it, really grow, really blah blah blah. And then I turned 30 and I was like, you love kids. Like you've always wanted to be a mom. You have focused so much on a career and growing your business and all these things that you have literally lost sight of like what money even provides. Do you know what I mean? Like money
Mm-hmm.
provides a place for like your family and your kids.
Mm-hmm.
And so it was just this huge wake up call. Like that's the best way to put it. And the grind culture is really toxic if you're a perfectionist. Like anything with motivational speakers or any of that stuff can
Yes.
really, really take you down a bad hole. And it did,
Yes.
I think, for years for me. It's like, I work so hard. I work all day, all night. Wow, I'm such a boss girl. And it's like, at the sacrifice of what? Your happiness, your joy, your content, your family,
Mm-hmm.
your friends. And I was that person who was like, I don't need friends. I'm building my boss girl life.
Right.
I
For
look
what?
back on that and I'm like,
Well,
for what?
right. I'm so proud of you. I think you're on a great path towards, really finding your authentic self and what really aligns with your life. I mean, that's
Yeah.
really what it's about. Learning what you align with and figuring out the community that
Yeah.
that you feel really supports you, and and the relationships that really help support you, and what boundaries you need to set and all of
Hmm.
that. And that's just it's the work. It's doing the work. And like that
Yeah.
doesn't stop. Sorry. Anyone who
No,
says
you're
like, yeah,
yes,
do the
yeah.
work. Do the work. Oh my god, you got it. Yeah, in 5 years you're going to no. The work, you will do this work for the rest of your life.
Yeah, like, even
And
admitting to yourself that you have failed of trying before, like trying these things before and you failed and you let it stop. And like I said, I looked back on those times and I'm like, you felt better then. So why did you stop? And so really wanting to hone in on, I felt so good when I did these things, when I honed in on my family, my time at home, my focus on my health, focus on my mental health. I felt my best. When I focused on my career and growth and all these things, I didn't feel my best. So let's really work on not going down that rabbit hole again. It's okay if I do. It's okay if I fail and try. I can always try again. And reminding myself that.
I I love that. I would just tweak one thing about that kind of internal dialogue you have. Try and change whatever you're talking about. Try and change the word failure with another word.
Okay.
The word failure is never good in like any internal dialogue or any way you process things, because when you think of maybe certain moments in your life that didn't maybe come to fruition in the way that you had expected them to, or they didn't happen in a way that made you feel this like great sense of motivation and happiness, it doesn't mean that you failed. So
Mm,
I would be very careful with the word failure and try to take that out of out of your vernacular, honestly,
I
and
probably
think of
should.
it as, a mishap or a lesson. Like when I learned my lessons that I have, when things didn't turn out the way that I thought they would, right? And really try and use that language instead of saying I failed.
That's so true. I do say that word a lot.
I really would try and move away from that, honestly, for you and anyone listening. So it takes time. It takes work. It's awesome though. I'm really proud of you. I think it's great. And I'm so happy to hear about, the update with you, and that, you're doing good. It's a really, you turned a corner, with an age that is hard for a lot of people, 30. And
You
then,
know what? Someone
yeah.
told me this guy at pickleball. He was like, it's funny, and he's like a super young, like he's 52 or something, but you would think he's like 38, just his spirit. And I also think age is just a number. I think I've really
Hmm.
tried to like tell myself that, because you meet people of all ages and they all act however they want to act, right? And he said, what's funny is 30 was actually a lot harder for me than 50. He was like, when I turned 50, it was almost like no big deal. He was like, but 30 was really hard for me.
Oh my gosh, same thing with me. I just told you, like, I went through the worst panic attack, and 40 was like amazing.
Huh.
It's awesome.
And I've heard that
Y-
too. I've heard people say they love 40. Their
Yeah.
40s where they're great.
Yeah. Yeah, you start really giving a shit much less. You literally just
That's
don't care
nice.
about what people think. I mean, literally. I mean,
That's
I think I
lovely.
should I think I should actually care a little more. I'm just kidding. Um and you know what? Just to kind of like, the episode has been like kind of long now, but I did say I would update on dating, and here's my update. There really is no update.
Wait. Hang on.
There really isn't anything.
I love following, and you need to go follow right now.
Okay.
Allison's TikToks on
Oh,
the dating series. My gosh. Are these
do
40
you love
plus
it?
year old men?
You
Like
guys,
what?
you have to follow me.
Oh.
I'm
Oh
trying to
my
post more, but now I'm
gosh.
only doing like one or twice a
No,
week.
you
Twice
literally
a month.
need to keep it going. Like it
I
is
know.
some of these men texting, my jaw drops to the floor. I'm like, wait,
Okay.
what?
So you would think, just yeah, you guys follow me. It's the anxiety healer, and I do post some things about anxiety, but honestly, it's turned into this like dating page where I share screenshots of guys that I've been messaging with or texting with, and I share with my opinion about, okay, please, you guys tell me what you think about these texting. And it is, I cannot believe some of the things that the guys like text me. And I'm not talking about like dirty things, like,
No, yeah.
but like just so
Just
rude. Some are rude. Some are just so like, they're like, just things aren't correct when they're talking. I don't even know what they're talking about. Some like actually I think are talking to other people at the same time, and they mistake it with me, and I'm like, and I write the funniest things back, and the people's comments, oh my
Oh,
god.
Allison, when you also like kind of roast like rude commenters, I die. I literally like when she says she's unfazed. Like
I literally could care less.
you
I
literally could care
do.
less.
I
You're like, I
send
don't
people.
care if you call me a crazy psycho. Like, I'm just trying to figure out this guy out.
I mean, there's so many comments. People are like, "You're such a red flag. This is why you're single." And I'm like, "Okay, okay,
As like the
fine."
guy's texting you the oddest thing that makes no sense, and you're just trying to ask, like, what is this?
Totally.
Oh, I like died laughing the
Oh
other day. I'm
my
like,
God, I
is
love
this
it.
man well? Is this man well? Like what?
I like every now and then you'll get one or two where I'm like, this guy was really sweet and we went out and it just wasn't a match. And it's like, I'll
Yeah.
show you those texts too, and I'll never show the name or the number, but it's basically, I call it, the series is called Text from Potential Dates That I Haven't Met in Real Life Yet. And I just continuously, and everyone loves it. So go follow me there and you can get all my dating updates there,
Absolutely.
because that's what I'll be saying
People
it
do love
on
it.
TikTok.
I actually like the comments too. I'll like read the comments. It's funny.
Oh, it's so funny. Oh, I'm glad you like it. Okay. But yeah, nothing new. I'll be posting on there.
Sometimes even your facial expressions make me laugh. Like when you go through the text and like you add your own tone, I die laughing.
Oh my God.
Because you can't
I
make
know.
some of this stuff up.
No.
You're just like,
Like seriously, I don't even remember when I started it, but I'm like, I need people to see this text, because this was the most stupid, insane thing of how this guy responded to me. I can't even. And I'm sure there's like women too. I'm not knocking on all the guys. I love obviously there's amazing, but I'm sure there's like stuff, and I'm not perfect either. So I always say that. I said, I am so aware that maybe I didn't like say the right thing, or I was stupid, but people are just have so many opinions. But yeah, follow me on there and you can follow my dating stuff. But there's your update for you guys. Thank you. Gosh, almost an hour. We needed to do this though, because it's been a couple weeks since we were together. And so we are, we're back with some guests. We're back with some solo episodes. And we'll be back together, and just, continue to stay tuned and subscribe to us, you guys. Please review. And just like give us some love and the comments and everything, and follow us at the Anxiety Chicks, because we really could use a little bit more love these days. So,
and I think we have a good guest next week too. So
yes,
very
we have some good guests coming up. So
yeah,
we love you guys, and we'll talk to you soon. Bye.